أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين محمد بن عبد الله عليه أفضل الصلوات وأتم التسليم. أوصي نفسي وأنفسكم بتقوى الله عز وجل. قال تعالى في القرآن العظيم: يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. After praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the Almighty, I send the salutations to the beloved messenger Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us each and everything which our hearts desire. Allahumma Amin. It is a privilege to be here with you this evening, and to me it's my first time to be here. Of course, I've been seeing my brother Sheikh Hussein Ali Bulafu. We've been discussing a lot behind the cameras about the program which we are running here every Friday after Salatul Asr. Allow me, inshallah, to introduce myself. By the name Amujad Ssebumba. I am a teacher by profession. I teach at Chinawa High Schools, that is Chinawa High School, Kawempe Campus, and Chinawa High School, Chengera Mugongo Main Campus. I studied from Islamic University in Uganda. That is my bachelor's degree in Islamic Studies and Arabic language. Then after, I joined Islamic University in Uganda, Kampala campus in a bachelor's degree in Sharia, in a master's degree in Sharia Al-Islamiyya. Now, I'm very glad to be here with you. Nsaba Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala atuwe obulungi obw'okuŋŋaanira mu kifo kino, era atuwe buli kimu kye twagala, atukingirize n'ebikyamu ebiyinza otutuukako oba oliawo nga tetumanyi, era atukingirize n'abalabe. And I think we shall be mixing the languages which we will be using. Of course, I'll be using a little bit of Luganda and then at the same time English, inshallah ta'ala. Now, according to the series which we have been with my brother Sheikh Hussein Ali Bulafu, from the beginning, where he was talking about the marriage from its first step, kuviira ddala ng'omuntu tonnaba kufuna mukyala ng'oli mu process ey'okugenda okufuna omukyala oba maama w'abaana bo ewaka. That process is a little bit challenging because in most cases bantu bangi bosanga ng'emyaka gy'alina Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tannaba kumusobozesa kufuna mukyala oba nga tannaba kumusobozesa kufuna mwami. Naye Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ensonga ze yatulaga together with the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and the things which my brother Sheikh Hussein talked about, which we have to follow so that you get a righteous spouse according to the religion of Islam and according to the teachings of the beloved messenger Muhammadin sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Ebintu ebyo bwe tuba tubigoberedde okuviira ddala ku ntandikwa, there are the things which we base on to be with a righteous family. Fenna abali wano, we are willing, or we might be willing, to be with righteous kids. Naye abaana abalongoofu batandikira straight away from the mother of your kids or the mother of them. Bw'obanga wagoberera obukwakkulizo ne conditions ezetuyitamu okubeera nga tufuna omukyala mu Busiraamu omulongoofu, and when the first condition is all about the religion, the moment you get a righteous spouse who is religious, that is the first indication that maybe, inshallah, abaana b'ogenda okufuna oba b'ogenda okuba nabo bagenda kubeera baki, bagenda kubeera balungi. Now mu lugendo olwo lwe tubaamu olw'okunoonya omukyala oba olw'okunoonya omwami, the first condition we have to follow, ekisooka kubikwasa Allahu subhanahu wa ta'ala. Waliwo aya Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gye yayogerako mu Quran whereby we have a lot of things which we want. Bw'otunulako to the side of our sisters, in their books, butawo bwabwe bwe baba nabwo, they have their condition which they have to follow or which they are supposed to follow in order to get a man. Waliwo abamu nga yalina points ze 12 yazaawo tulininga, and when you are to see them or when you are to talk about them, ogenda olaba number 1, omusajja must be with money, which is not bad, but the first point to follow must be omusajja alina eddiini. Is he religious? Because even the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he was telling us to choose the righteous wives, yayogera ku conditions zonna zonna. Kyemmanyi, we are just making a recap, kyemmanyi ze twayogerako, naye muzimu ku zo bwe yali amaliriza, he said fadfar bidhati din talibati yadak. If you want to be with a righteous wife, mind about her religion. Beauty, yes, it is supposed to be there, the wealth, the family where she is coming from, but the first condition to follow must be her religion. When we look in the history of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and here comes the point or the topic which we are going to share today. تعامل النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم مع أزواجه أو مع زوجاته. After getting a wife, after getting a husband, now we have started the life of marriage. Obufumbo bwaffe tukoze eki? Tubutandise. Omuntu, in the first place, if you want your marriage to be successful, number 1, you have to choose the best role model. Yes, we are having very many people who are married. I might be there when I am single. Nkimanyi Sheikh wange Hussein mufumbo. Now, if I want my marriage to be successful, I should be with a role model. Naye, we have to also mind about these role models. Not that each and every person, or you know, mukopako nga bwatambuza obuki obufumbo bwe. No. Okay? Because nze wange, I might be living emitwalo 5 nga sente za kameeza. Now, if you are to make me your role model, it means now you might end up nga nawe sente za kameeza zolekayo emitwalo emeka 5. Now, if I live 12, I know how my wife plans with that 12. Okay? But the best role model to choose must be our beloved messenger Muhammadin sallallahu alayhi wasallam. If you want to live in a happy and a successful marriage, go back and read the history of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, how he dealt with his beloved wives. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam yalina ebintu ebyenjawulo mu bulamu bwe obw'obufumbo bye yatambulirangako oba oliawo for his marriage to be successful, and they are the points which we are going to remind ourselves about. The first point, as a married man, I'm sorry, I'll go to the side of the man because in most cases ladies say fewe tuba tugenda okufumbirwa batubuulirira, naye abasajja bwe baba bagenda otuwasa tutuukayo nga ffe bakola ki, batubuulirira, nga abasajja bo tebakola ki, tebababuulirira. In the first place of choosing the role model, we said that role model must be our beloved Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam. He was a role model to the family members, to the wives. The first point, musa'adatuhunna fi a'malil manzil. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam used to help all the wives when it came to the issues concerning the home or the house. Okufumba, okwera, okusimula, okola biki, okamente, okutwala ente ku ttale, each and everything. That was the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam. But the question is, are you that kind? Gwe ng'omusajja oba ng'omwami gwe walonda ewuwe wakaawo, is he of that kind? The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallama kana yahtamu bi khadmi nafsihi. In the first place, yalinga ye kennyini nnyini yeeyamba mu mirimu gye. Oba tuli ffenna, you might be in a situation ng'oli waka with your husband, naye nga each and everything omwami akisaba ggwe. Sokisi zange ziriwa, nti munaye ekanzu gye nzikuwe. Ekanzu yange gye njagala okwambala leero, you find out that the kanzu which was ironed is of cream color and for you want to put on black. Now you tell her, eya cream gye wagolodde sikola ki, sijagala, ngololere eyaki, eya black. Are we together, members? The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallama used to help his beloved wives mu mirimu egy'ewaka. Kana yakhsifu na'lahu. He used to clean and wash his clothes. Wa yarqa' thawbahu. At times when the wives were busy, he used to wash his clothes. Wa yahlibu shatahu. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallama used to go n'alaba ebisolo bikomyewo, engamiya zikomyewo, embuzi zikomyewo, n'agenda n'akama amata n'aleetera omukyala n'akola ki, n'afumba in the first place. That's why when Khadija radiyallahu anha was asked about the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallama, how he used to conduct himself at home, Khadija said, kana yakhsifu na'lahu wa ya'malu ma ya'malu ar-rajulu fi baytihi. Khadija said that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallama used to do each and everything at home. Emirimu omusajja gyakola ewaka, Nabbi sallallahu alayhi wasallama yagikolanga. And we know them. But you might find a situation whereby omukazi ewaka yafumba emmere, yakima amazzi we gaba gaweddewo ku ttaapu, bw'oba olina ebintu by'osindisa oba by'oleese ewaka gw'obisituza, gwe n'otambula ngalonsa. Are we together? Nabbi sallallahu alayhi wasallama was exemplary in the family where he was. Nga ye kennyini nnyini in the first place, he was the role model. Okay? Era Nabbi sallallahu alayhi wasallama, the second point, tahammuluhu wa sabruhu alayhinna. As a man, as a husband at home, you have to be patient from each and everything which the wife might do. I have a friend of mine, Sheikh Yasir. He told me one day that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created these ladies. Ngabo, they get pleased that very moment wokoledde ekintu. Yangamba omukyala asiima ekintu wokoze eki, wokikoledde. An example on this. If you buy, for example, KFC and you bring it home, omukyala awo wakola ki? That very moment wasiimira. Even asobola n'okumaliriza okulya KFC yo gy'oleese with the lot of money you used. N'amala n'agamba naye musajja gwe olimba, you have never done anything good to me. Naye nga mu ddakiika 5 ava kulya ki? KFC. Tuli ffenna? Also, this is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created them. Now, if we know them, we have to be patient with each and everything which they might do. And all the time we have to expect bad things from them. Expect okuyomba, expect okuvumamu, expect okugamba nti tolina kye wali onkoledde. Are we together, members? After getting all of them, now you have to be patient. Bw'osangayo abasajjasajja yayanguyirawo awo bamugamba musajja gwe tolina kye wali onkoledde n'ekimu, empinga zikola ki? Mchala gwe tosiima wano nakoledde kino ne kino. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala watu bwe yabatonda. So the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallama was very patient with his beloved wives. Remember a situation where all the wives gathered in front of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallama and they started to question him. Ne bamugamba naye nabbi leka kusaaga. Buno obwavu bwe tuwangaaliramu, we are living in the worst life. And which is true, because the Prophet lived in a life of a normal person, omuntu owa bulijjo. Time reached, ng'akomawo n'ewaka for lunch, nga tewali lunch n'abuuza Aisha, are we having food? Then Aisha could say no. Then the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam could bring the niyyah of fasting. Naga waba tewali mmere kati nkoze eki nsiibye. Now the wives gathered, all of them, had 12. Ne bakuŋŋaana, ne bamuteeka mu kajojijoji w'ebibuuzo. They started to ask him, but ya Rasulallah, you are Allah's messenger. You are the best among all the creatures. Whatever you want, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can give it to you. Lwaki tosaba Allah n'atujja mu bwavu buno bwe tulimu n'atuwa essente zitamanya alina? Nabbi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam ne bimusobera. N'atuula. Okay. And he waited for the answer from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala n'abayita bakyala ba Nabbi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Jibril na Ssebumba. Allah n'abazza mu line, baali bawabye. Allah mu kubazza mu line n'abagamba nti bagambe Muhammad, tell them to come. If they want to be rich, I am going to provide money to them. But on one condition, baba tebakyali bakyala bo. Bwe mmala okubawa ssente nga buli gwempa ayagala okufuna ssente muwa ssente n'akola ki? N'avaawo. Naye Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, wa in kuntunna turidna Allah wa in kunna turidna Allah wa rasulahu. If they want Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, now they must be patient with each and everything which is going on in our lives. In the marriage life, we have to be patient from one another. Chala byakoze uminkirize. At times you may come back kusawa zonya naye even the supper is not prepared. Does that mean that you have to get mad? Nebisigadde byonna byonna obigaane? No, that shouldn't be the issue. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallama was very patient concerning the matter of the wives and concerning the matters which were there at home. Okay? Even the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallama, senti ye yali awo ng'alina sente empitirivu zaleka ewaka. You know, we are living in an era whereby abakyala, they consider sente za kameeza more than each and everything. Musajja oyo gw'olaba tandekerawo sente za kameeza, tandabirira, tanfaako. But naffe ffennyini we have to be patient with our husbands, the ones we are having. Among the conditions which we follow, erize twalaba, when we are going to get a husband or a wife, we said the first condition should be the religion. And then omusajja in that very moment ayinza okuba nga he does not have that much amount of money, naye ng'emikisa gye egy'okufuna essente nagyo myanjulukufu era nga weegiri. Now we have to be patient both sides okulaba nga tutambuza ensonga n'okutambuza obufumbo bwaffe nga tuli bulungi era nga tewali kintu kyonna kyonna kyetu complaininga, either complaining to the side of the husband or complaining to the side of the wife. The third point, sabruhu sallallahu alayhi wa sallama ala ma yaqa' minhunna min tasarrufatin mukhtalifa. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was very patient with all the changes which his wives were experiencing, mostly in life. You know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us when we cannot live in the constant situation. Buli kimu nga tutambula nga bwe twakibala. We live in the life whereby we experience ups and downs. Kati Nabbi sallallahu alayhi wa sallama used to be patient with the wives according to the way they were changing in either ways. You know, these wives tend to change naturally, most especially wabali mbuto bakyuka. The same thing nafa abasajja bw'obanga obadde oyinamu ku sente ne zituuka ekiseera ne ziggwawo naawe era okola ki? Okyuka. Now enkyukakyuka eyo mu bulamu, we have to bear with it and we have to know that that is life. Aisha radiyallahu anha, the wife of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, she narrates and she says, لقد رأيت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يوما على باب حجرتي. One day I was able to see the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam standing at the door of my bedroom. Okay? وَالْحَبَشَةُ يَلَعَبُونَ فِي الْمَسْجِدِ. Waliyo abasajja babiri abaddugavu, they were playing in the mosque. Kati Aisha radiyallahu anha n'ava mu kisenge ajje naye akole ki? Alaba abasajja abakola ki? Abalwana. Because the Prophet's house okugigendangamu yayitanga mu ki? Yayitanga mu muzikiti n'agenda n'ayingira mu kisenge kye wa mu kisenge kya Aisha. Naye Aisha says that when I came to see those ones who were playing in the mosque, فَبَدَأَ الرَّسُولُ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ يَسْتُرُنِي بِرِدَائِهِ. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam started to cover me with a cloth. Abali wabweru eri baleme kulaba nti ne Aisha naye akola ki? Ayimiridde waawo. Kama annahu kanu yunadiha bil humayra. The same thing the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam used to call his beloved wives sweet names. Naye gwe buli lucha n'oyita maama gundi, namuddu, nasaka, nakijoba, jangwana, I want food. Get that one name which you call your husband, which you call your wife. Naye gwe buli kiseera gwe semakookiro, gwe semakawawano, gwe sebuufu. Are we together? The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was very patient in each and every condition in the matters regarding marriage. The fifth point, mushawaratuhunna wal ihtimam bi araihinna. In the marriage life, you have to respect the idea and the advice from either your wife or your husband. How? Oli ayinza okubeera awo, a husband, and then he gets something either ku mulimu gy'akolera oba abantu bawangaala nabo, and then he comes back home with a gloomy face. Okay? Mukyala akanya kubuuza owaaye kiki? Biveeko ebyo. The same story might happen to the side of the wives. Nobeeraawo nga you are having very many challenges, but you can't share them with your husband. This is not the case. If we look at the history, we might see that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, in the first place, Allah wayamuwa omukyala eyasooka Khadija binti Khuwailid. She used to advise the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam a lot. In which way? Number one, yali asinga nabbi obukulu, because the Prophet married her when she was 40 years, when the Prophet was 25 years. Khadija yali asinga nabbi emyaka 15, which might not be the case. Musajja ayinza obanga akusinga emyaka 10 obanga akusinga emyaka 2, but that advice matters a lot. Among the things which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave these ladies, Allah yabawa obwongo n'okulowooza, which he never gave us for abasajja. fe Allah amagezi gaffe yagatuweera muki mu maanyi gwe bw'olaba ng'olina amaanyi ng'olowooza nti n'okutegeera okola ki otegeera nnyo Allah bw'ati we yabikola bo yabawa amagezi nga mangi nnyo okusukuluma ku g'abaani ku gaffe. That's why when we are going to marry, among the things which we have to consider the age of the wife, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, tazawwaju al-waluda al-waduda. If you are to marry a wife who is younger than you. Bw'oba olina emyaka 3, funayo kale ow'emyaka 2 oba ow'e18. Natural oyo gwe wenkanya naye amaki amagezi. Bw'aba alina emyaka 2 kitegeeza her thinking capacity ya muntu alina emyaka ameka 3. Yes. Obadde tokimanyi professor akaddemu. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us fa abasajja ng'amaanyi gaffe oba endowooza yaffe esinga we take it mu maanyi ge tukola ki ge tulina. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave these ladies the thinking capacity. Omukyalo ow'emyaka 18 alowooza ng'omusajja ow'emyaka ameka 3. Omukyalo ow'emyaka 2 asobola okulowooza ng'omusajja ow'emyaka ameka 4. That's why the challenges which we are facing mostly ku bantu ababeera in marriage nga they are of the same age, always omukyala bw'abaako ne kyayogera aba alaba nga she is making a point ate nga togenda kukola ki kumuwakanya. Era nawe bw'okomawo ewaka nga kyoyogedde oyagala ki ekiba kikola ki kyekiba kikola. Remember you are of the same age. Olina 25 alina 24 oba mwenna mulina 25. Endowooza yammwe tesobola kwenkana abadan. Aba alowooza nnyo mu maaso okusinga ggwe. That's why they plan a lot. And I'm giving an example oba oliawo gye tuyinza okutegeererako ennyo. In the life which we are living in right now ng'abasajja, if I'm to ask a question, wamma bw'oba waakulya lunch olya ssente mmeka? Oyinza kulya ssente mmeka lunch ng'osazeewo olye bulungi ky'oyagala? How much? Omutwalo gukola ki? Gugwawo. Okay. That is lunch. Are you together, members? Now there is evening tea. Awulegula n'obudda this time. 15. That is gumu kitundu. Bw'oba musambi wa kapiira n'ogendako mu kisaawe n'osamba akaki kapiira. Now you are having supper. Ogenda okuva eyo oba ovudde ku mulimu enjala ekulumye okooye. Now you have to take supper. Awo zibeera mmeka? Tuve mu bali abakakomanda ak'ebbiri. Okay? We are talking about someone alya a meal which is supposed to be taken. Kale tugambe nti era awo 15 nazo zikola ki? Zigenze ziweddewo. Kitegeeza a day you have used emitwalo emeka? 2. Billahi al-azim, give 5,000 to a wife at home. Ojja kulaba ebyewuunyo. Oyinza n'okukomawo nga lanchi yafumbye enkoko. Okay? Because nowadays they sell enkoko in quarter, half, kilo, a whole chicken. Okay? I want to drive you to what I was saying. Gw'olunaku okulyako obulungi oli emitwalo emeka? 2. A wife at home can plan for 5,000 nga mugenda kulyako lunch ne supper. N'agula hafu y'omuceere n'agulayo ennyaanya za 2 akatungulu ka 10 worst of it all n'afissa nawo ko 10,000. Are we together? N'afunayo 10,000 lwa data oba olwaki oba olwa airtime. That's why the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam in the first place advised us, bw'obanga olina emyaka gy'olina, yes, you are in your 30s, at least you get someone who is in 20s. Okay? Olaba n'abo aba 20s nabo bennyini era basumbuwa. Genda okulaba wallahi mukyalo ono sikyamutegeera. Are we together? So the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam used to mind a lot about the advice which was given to him from the wives. Era Khadija radiyallahu anha is known to be the master planner of the Prophet's call when the Prophet was still calling the Muslims fi da'wati sirriya. Nabbi bwe yali akoowola abantu okusiramuka in the first place, the first person eyamuyiirawo omubiri ng'enjogera y'ennaku zino was Khadija. And we know it very well that Khadija ye mukyala yasooka okukola ki? Okusiramuka without any explanation. Because the Prophet came to her, n'amunyumiza story ya malayika emujjidde. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, after Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala telling him that you have to publicize the call, you have to start calling others towards the religion of Islam. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, as he was talking to Khadija, Khadija waited for the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam to wake up. Nabbi amala okuzuukuka, Khadija n'amugamba naawumbuulira mu ddoboozi erikkakkamu. Here we get something to learn. Bwe tubeera ewaka, even if you are annoyed, oba mukyala yakunyiizizza, oba ku mulimu gy'ova, when you come back home, please and please kakkana as if wabeerenge ewataliwo kintu kyonna kyonna kyakoze eki kyakutuuseeko. But this habit of coming back home, n'ebizibu by'oku mulimu n'okola ki? N'obireeta ewaka. They are telling you the sugar is over. Nammwe and even the soap oba sabuni mulye. Because you were disturbed from the things which happened to you ng'okyali eri bbali. Now Khadija told the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, what is the issue? The Prophet told Khadija that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told me to call others towards the religion of Islam. Mpita abantu bajje bakole ki? Basiramuke. Ulira omukyalo omulongoofu yamugamba, ya Rasulallah, ana awwalu man amana bika. Yamugamba, my beloved husband, I am the first person to believe in the religion which you have come with. And I'm ready to do each and everything so that the religion of Islam can be successful. Era buli kimu yabijja kikola. Because one, she had a lot of money. Yalina sente. Ng'ava mu family ya kitiibwa, she had connections. Era abasigadde awo abajja, they used to follow the advice which Khadija gave to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam. It is not that each and everything which we are doing, we have to hide them from our wives. No. At times they be with ideas. Naye olwaleero tuli ku mulembe ng'omusajja ayagala akole buli kimu ky'ayagala ng'omukyala takola ki? Tamanyi ogukyalo ogwo guyinza okunziba. Are we together? And at times that depends ku mukyala naawe gwe wakola ki? Gwe waleeta ewaka. Naye nga tukikakasa bulungi nti waliyo abakyala nga you can tell her all your plans. N'azikuuma nga mwabiri mmwe muzimanyi. Nga she can tell you all her plans and you advise. But this habit of omukyalo ogamba omusajja waaye no wali njiyirizaayo kaawo emiliyoni nga 3 ogenda kukola ki? Biri awo. Are we together? you have to get advice from one another. That is what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to do when he was in the marriage life together with his beloved wives. Tulifena. Now, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, among the ways oba mu mbeera ez'enjawulo ze yayitangamu to marry the wives he had, yalinanga ebintu ebyenjawulo bye yakola ki, bye yasinziirangako mu mbeera emu oba endala, which we all supposed to follow. Ebimu ku byo, there are some ladies which the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam married after the death of their husbands. Nga mu kuwasa abakyala abo there is goodness, and they are the many which the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam married. Omukyala yekka nabbi gwe yawasaako nga tafumbirwangako yali Aisha radiyallahu anha. Era Aisha n'okwewaana yeewaananga in front of others, the co-wives, nga bagamba tazawajani nabiyya bikra. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam married me nga sifumbirwangako. Tazawajani nabiy bi amrin min Allah. The Prophet married me and it was an order from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Kati mwe bajja banga basigadde simanyi kye muŋŋamba. Are we together? Naye Nabbi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, after marrying her, remember in the first place he had only one wife, Khadija. Era ebbanga Nabbi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam lye yamala ne Khadija radiyallahu anha, he never married any other wife until when Khadija died. Now there are sisters here who are saying, nange omwami wange bw'abaaba. But are you having the guarantee that you are going to die first? Are we together? We shouldn't make this a point that nange musajja wange alina kukola ki, ninasooka kukola ki, kufa. Kitegeeza bw'oba olina sooka kufa, awo muzimu ku dduwa ze tuba tulina okusaba ewaka Allah omukyalo ono mutte mangu. Which is not right. Okay? So according to the Prophet's way of marriage, according to how Khadija used to treat him, yabeera naye nga ali naye omukyala atya omu. Are we together, members? She used to advise him in very many things and in very many occurrences. After the Battle of Uhud, we know it very well that waliwo abantu be baleeta, the non-Muslims be baleeta, be bajja abawambe be baafuna muki mu lutalo. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam started to seek for advice from various people. Nga buli bamu agenda abagamba, what should we do with them? Umar ibn al-Khattab n'abagamba, ya Rasulallah, naqtuluhum, we kill them. Ay! Buli omu naga yi. Ya Rasulallah, we kill them. After killing them, tewali muntu agenda kuddamu kuzanya na buki na busiramu. Then the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam went to Khadija, to Uthman, and even to others. But one of the things which they advised him, they told him, Ya Rasulallah, let us make them to teach our children how to read and how to write. That is the advice from a wife to a husband. Bakyala b'ennaku zino tebakyayagala kutuwabula. I don't know whether naffe abasajja ffe tuteeteeka mu level yakuba nti tukola ki, tuwabulwa. Because oli ayinza okubeerawo nga saabasajja, buli kimu kyayagala ewaka kyekikola ki, kyekikola. But that shouldn't be the point. As a husband at home, you have to be exemplary. Waliwo abamu abayina abaana, ng'abaana oluwulira either emmotoka nga ekuba eŋŋombe ku geeti, obanga waliwo akonkona oba bubadde bulaba TV nga budduka paka wa mu kisenge, dadi akomyewo, kisenge tukole ki, kiveemu. That shouldn't be the point. Are you that kind of husband ng'omukyala bw'akuwulira ng'okomyewo aga inna lillahi wa inna ilaihi raji, era omuntu akomyewo? Okay? We have to create a peaceful environment at home with our wives, with our husbands. We have to accept whenever they tell you that you have done something wrong, accept if it is wrong. Tochitwala gamba nti nze nabukenya wa kuno baŋŋambako. It shouldn't be that. There is no any person in this life gwe batagambako. There is no any person in this life atawabulwa. Even the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam told us, kullu ibn Adam khata wa khayr al-khata'ina at-tawwabin. Everyone does something wrong, but the best wrongdoer is the person who come to know that I have done a mistake, but I am sorry, I will never repeat that again. Okay? The last point, the second last, which we are going to talk about how the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam used to deal with his beloved wives. Mu'amalatuhunna bil mawaddati war rahma. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, as a husband, yajifuula point to be with his wives in a peaceful way, nga obuwangazi bwabwe obufumbo bwabwe bujjuddemu okusaasirigana n'okwagalana. That's why one of the stories which we get to learn from the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, which shows that he was merciful, ng'alina omukwano, alina ekisa eri bakyala be. One day yayingira at the place or at the house of Swafiya. Swafiya was one of the Prophet's wives. Wahiya tabki. The Prophet entered. When Swafiya was crying, why is she crying? فَسَأَلَهَا عَنْ سَبَبِ بُكَائِهَا. The Prophet asked her, Swafiya, why are you crying? فَقَالَتْ. Swafiya said, إِنَّ حَفْصَةَ عَيَّرَتُهَا بِأَنَّهَا بِنْتِ يَهُودِيَّةٍ. Hafsa, the co-wife, told her that you are a daughter of a Jewish person or a Jewish man. Oli mwana w'abaki? W'abaju oba w'abayahudi. Nabbi sallallahu alaihi wasallam bakati olutalo lugenda kuggwa lutya. This happens a lot to wives who are more than one. Ebisoomooza tebiggwamu. Era nga the same thing erebbuba nayo terikola ki? Terisobola kuggwawo. Now look at the incident. Nga Swafiya aloopani mujja we Hafsa because of telling her nti mwana wa muki? Wa Muyahudi. Now according to the way the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam used to deal with the wives, namugamba nti Swafiya mchala wange, yamugamba nti innaki labnat nabiy. Swafiya, from today onwards, njagala okitegeere nti you are a daughter of a prophet. Oli muwala wani? Wa nabbi. Wa inna ammaki la nabiy. And your uncles or your uncle is also a prophet. Wa innaki la tahta nabiy. And best of it all, your husband is also a prophet. فَبِمَا تَفْخَرُ عَلَيْكِ. Now, is there anything which you have to be proud with except that? Okubanga gwe oli mwana waki? Wa nabbi. Nga kojjaawo nabbi. Ate nga n'omwami wani? Nabbi. Awo nabbi sallallahu oluyombo taluzikizza. Nebbo batalimazeewo. Okay? Now, in the lives which we are living in, we have to learn how to treat our wives in a merciful way. And we have to show them love. That's why the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, after he told Hafsa that ittaqillaha ya Hafsa, fear Allah. Hafsa, tiani Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not only that, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, after marrying Aisha radiyallahu anha, nga Aisha kali kakyala nga kakyali katono bulungi, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam took her somewhere and he made a starting line here. He told her, we are going to run. 100 meters. The one who reaches first is the winner. Abasoma tarehe tukimanyi nabbi yawasa Aisha nga wa myaka emeka? Wanji 9 years. Okay? Naye 9 years seja wane waffe Uganda. Wane Uganda bachapa abaana baffe tubaliisa ku mikopa, ku miwogo n'ebirala ne batakula mangu. Ababawalabu bo basiiba ku nkoko, mataga ngamiya, zamzamu n'ebirala ne bakula ki mangu. Now after marrying her, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam told her, we are going for a race. N'asaza line wane esooka, n'agenda n'asaza n'eri the finishing line. They started to sprint. Given the fact that Aisha was still young and energetic, n'adduka emisinde n'ayita ku nabbi teyalaba we yayita. And she crossed the line. Now she started to jubilate. Nkusinze wallahi nkusinze. Are we together? The Prophet waited for some few years. You know, we tend to marry these wives of ours when they are still models, when they are models. Manawo mulaba keeko. Wallahi, even when you are talking about why you say kachala kange je kaliye wakeyo. After some years, Aisha yatandika okola ki? Ogeja. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam got an idea. Ne baddayo in the same place. Weba empaka ziri wezali. He crossed the first line, the starting line, and he crossed the finishing line. Amugamba Aisha, yes, my husband, we have come back the second time. We are going to run. Nga Aisha yenna gezegeze emmere alidde empitirivu. Now this time round nabbi we yadduka ye yakola ki? Ye yasookayo naye ne yeewaana nti nange nkoze eki? Nkusoose. Awo ne gubeeremu emu. Naye wali gwaliemu 0. Okay? Are we those kind of husbands who play with our wives at home? Are we the ones? Oba gwe okanyagamba nti ebyo wallahi bya Nigeria bya film. No, it shouldn't be the point. Are you that kind of wife who create a peaceful environment at home which makes your husband to be free to do each and everything? Okay? Hey, waliwo kati buno obuzannyo obupya, leeta echupa simana ogikasuka bwetuulawo, you do something. Mwani yabagamba nti buno obuzannyo bw'empi, you put your hands like this, n'oyawuza bw'amisinga nga naawe okola ki? Omukuba. It is one of the things which are going to add love between us as the husbands and as the wives. Okay? The last point which we are going to talk about how the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, or the Prophet's relationship with his wives. Adluhu ma'a nisaihi. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, given the fact that he had very many wives, he did each and everything bonna kubenkanya. Even though naturally mubaamu naawe gwosinga okola ki? Okwagala, but at least you try. If in this house ewa nambe mu bagenda kulya amatooke, why are you making it a point ate eri ewa namba 2 yo balye kawunga ka muwogo? Kale bw'oba oguze ekiwagu kisalemu wakati, eno batwaleyo party neri batwaleyo ki party, not to be there nga gwe omanyi nti ewa namba emu. Yes, banamba emu balina muko privilege kuba tuba twakola ki? Twatoba nabo, obulamu twatandika nabo, twabafuna tetunnafuna ssente, Mungu bwazituwa ne tulyoka tukola ki? Ne tulyoka tuwasa. That is what they say. It is not my ideology. Okay? But also the ladies, we have to know it very well. You know, there is a question which I ask the ladies whenever it comes to matters concerning okunga tako oba obutanga tako. I ask them, I give them 2 options. Number 1, your husband to marry your sister, not even your co-wife, your sister in Islam, And you get to know that if my husband is not this side, aliwani, aliwa Hafswa, oba aliwa Maryam. Okay? That is the first option. The second option, if my husband is not here, I know he will come back. He is free to do each and everything he wants, to love as many girls he wants, and to sleep with as many as possible, provided he comes back home on a daily basis. Ngaba sirisate. There are two options. Omusajja okubeerawo nga bw'aba taliwo kimanya aliwani wamulala. Oba okola ebintu byeyo, because tubikola. Tesobola kwegana nti tetubikola. Tubikola. N'okola ebintu byeyo n'okomawo waka on a daily basis. Okubeerawo ng'okimanyi nti bw'aba tali wano ewange ali eno, I can give a one call away and I know how the husband is doing. Abamu bagamba afazali akola byakola ebibyeyo n'akola ki? N'akomawo. But now you do not look at the dignity which you are having. Perhaps the man might come back home ng'alina byakoze ebiki. Some diseases ng'afunye endwadde ate nazireetewa ewaka. Okay? And when we start to talk about that point, ng'abakyala banyiiga. Era some of them say that abasajja azifu mu Qur'ani baategeerayo fankihu ma twaba lakum minan nisa'i mathna wa thulatha wa rubaa. But now in the world which we are living in, we even know it very well and better that the ladies are many more than the what? The man or the men. Banji. The only way yetusobola okubakeezaako kwe kubanga Seeka Hussein afunyeyo namba 2, oboli awo n'afunayo namba 3, ne namba 4 n'ayamba umma. Abasigaddewo baleme kubeera baki? Baleme kubeera nga nabo bali awo, they are looking for husbands. Are we together, members? So the last point the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam used to be just whenever it came to the matters of his beloved wives. Okay? So please and please, members, as I am winding up our today's lecture, I want us to do each and everything in our lives when we make the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam to be our role model. Yes, you are studying. Your role model must be the Prophet. You are having friends. Be with them according to the way the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam was. You are a husband. Make your image, your big role model to be the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam. But nowadays we tend to follow various people. As I am following Robert Kyagulanyi Bobi Wine. When he takes Babi to the beach, I also take my wife to the, which is not bad. Okay? Let us be with our role models, and that role model must be the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam. I wish to stop here. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us among those ones who listen to words and then they pick better from them. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا يا مولانا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. اللهم آت نفوسنا تقواها وزكها فأنت خير من زكاها أنت وليها ومولاها برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم يسر لنا في أعمالنا، اللهم يسر لنا في دروسنا، اللهم كن معنا في كل شيء. ربنا عليك توكلنا وإليك أنبنا وإليك المصير. سمعنا وأطعنا غفرانك ربنا وإليك المصير. ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين واجعلنا للمتقين إماما. اللهم احفظنا واحفظ أسرتنا، اللهم احفظنا واحفظ آبائنا وأمهاتنا وزوجاتنا وأولادنا وجميع المسلمين من مشارق الأرض ومغاربها. ربنا اغفر لنا ولوالدينا وارحمهم كما ربونا صغارا. وصل اللهم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وسلم. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.